Hi everyone, I'm Hannah from Spiritual Tarot, and today I'm doing something a little different, and I am participating in a YouTube tarot themed challenge. I love doing challenges on Instagram, so it was only a matter of time before I decided to participate in one on YouTube. This is the Tarot Reflections tag from the Tarot Alchemist. So I'm really excited to just jump right in. There's 5 questions, and the first question is, what genre of tarot are you drawn to? So I don't have a lot of decks in my possession currently. That doesn't mean that I don't have a wish list of decks that I'd like to buy eventually. But I seem to gravitate towards very ethereal, light, kind of otherworldly decks that have a lot of symbolism and are just kind of have like a very painterly quality to them. I've never really been attracted to oracle decks. I did a video just kind of talking about, why I prefer the tarot deck to oracle decks. So I've never really been attracted to like fairies or angels or anything like that. I don't really haven't really been interested in any of like the pagan decks or anything like that. I really like the I am kind of a purist. I will always love the Rider Waite and probably always use that the most. So like the Golden Universal Tarot, I love this, use it all the time, and I think it's my favorite because it's gilded. I love me some metallics, so I I mean it pretty much just has everything that I love. Beautiful artwork, colorful, and gold. Um, I also love the Wild Unknown. I I like some animal decks, but once again, I'm a little picky about the artwork. I don't like it when it's kind of like looks like it just was ripped out of a children's book. Like that kind of illustration kind of turns me off. But illustrations like the Wild Unknown that are just like beautiful and artistic and one of a kind. Um, I just love it, and I love the colors. I like the watercolor aspect to it. I just find it once again to be like just very dreamy. I just really like decks that kind of make me feel like I'm looking into a dream, like this. And I like the ones that are kind of like I like this one that has animal archetypes. I really connect with animals, always have for my whole life. So reading with a deck like this that includes animal symbology is really helps me like intuitively read a person in a different way. Because if I do pull a card with, like this lamb in it, I can really get a good read on the person's, kind of energetic characteristics. Um, so I love that one, and I also, I have the Art Nouveau deck, and I I really do like decks that have kind of like an art theme. I am a Libra, and I am always just attracted to things that are aesthetically pleasing. I can't help it. So it seems that the decks that I am attracted to are less about their theme and more about the artistic work that goes into the illustrations. That's what I love the most. So anything with watercolors. I really love the Star Child Tarot. Um, there's a couple other, the Fountain Tarot. Any tarot deck that really just has that beautiful painterly quality to it, I love it. And if it's just light and, otherworldly and ethereal, I feel like it just kind of can transport your mind to another dimension when you're reading. So, number 2 is use a card from the majors and a card from the minors to describe your greatest strengths. So I thought what was hard about this question was that like you're not really asked to like pick a card that describes you. It's more about like a strength. So just one aspect of yourself, which I think is kind of cool. So I really was like, I know this is like a tough question, so I was struggling with it a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of people do. And I like kind of went back to like the by the book definitions of the cards to kind of like affirm what card I was choosing. Um, so for the major arcana, I chose Temperance. And so I know that, Libra in the major arcana is connected to justice, but I've never really felt like a deep connection to the justice card. I haven't worked with it really enough, but Temperance is a card that has come out for me a lot in the past. It comes through in a lot of readings, not so much anymore, but it used to. Um, and I I really feel the energy of like that balancing act. I feel like that is me in my everyday life. And as far as the strength goes, so this card kind of symbolizes maintaining balance, being temperate. So finding that middle ground, showing moderation, um, compromising, um, but in like a healthy way, and kind of being a mediator. That's kind of what this card symbolizes. Someone is like blowing us up. What's Oh, I'm back. These people are just like calling our house like a million times. It's crazy. Okay, so anyway, so Temperance. So I feel like this card does embody a lot of my strengths. I think it also kind of came up for me a lot when I was first reading tarot, because it was something that it was pointing out things I needed to work on, which was balancing. But I am a very like finding middle ground, moderation kind of person, if that makes sense. I always see both sides of any argument. I, being a Libra, usually see like choice A and B as well as C, D, E, F, all the way to Z. I tend to be the person who, when people are talking to about like, if they're fighting with someone, they want to kind of have someone to like give them advice or hear their side of the story. And, I'm always the one that's kind of like telling them how they should approach the situation, how to maybe understand the other person's perspective. I don't really like the idea of like playing devil's advocate, because sometimes I feel like that can be like not what the person needs to hear. But I always just try to be as honest as possible. And I always feel like people appreciate hearing the truth. And I do feel like that is like practicing balance, because you are recognizing all sides of this story, and just kind of finding the middle ground. I also one of the definitions for this card talks about avoiding excess, and I am kind of like what I was saying about moderation. I just naturally am not an excessive person in certain respects. Like I like to drink and go out, but I will like my friends actually get mad at me because I don't finish my drinks. Like I don't know what it is. I just like I'll have like a quarter of a beer and be like, it's warm, I'm not going to drink it anymore. And I'll still have a great time or get a little tipsy, but I never black out. I've had boyfriends in the past that have been like, you are like, you could never get addicted to anything. And it's like, I almost want to say I'm like non-committal. And like I can't even commit to like, getting wasted. But I just have like this very like, enough's enough. I'm happy with, what I have, and I don't need to overdo it. Like I just never feel the need to like completely go ham and overdo it. Um, I with any kind of anything really. I just kind of get to that point where I'm like, okay, that was enough, and then I move on to the next thing. Like, it's just this kind of like natural unattachment that I have. And I don't know if it's because I'm a little ADHD, I guess. Like, where I get like distracted by something else, and I'll kind of like, I'll love something and I'm like, ooh, this is exciting. And then I'll like see something else like, ooh, that's pretty too. And I like just kind of like flutter away like a little butterfly. And I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. And I never like stay long enough to get like so attached to something and like, so I'm blessed with natural moderation. As boring as that might sound. And honestly, I just feel like walking the middle ground, like I'm always usually able to see things rationally from the center perspective and see like both sides and um, you know, get people to kind of find a compromise and find a middle ground. So there's me, the natural mediator. I think that's actually my personality type if you did the Myers-Briggs like personality thing, because I'm an INFJ and I think they call that the mediator. Not positive. It's either the INFJ or the INFP. I kind of go back and forth. So, and then for the minor arcana, I chose the Ace of Cups. And I chose that one because I am an empath and I am just completely like, I navigate my life through like emotions. Like that is how I understand people. That's how I read people. That's how I know if I trust them or not. That's how I kind of interpret psychic information that comes to me. I just I identify as an empath. That's really it. So I kind of chose this one because this is the card of like true emotional force. This is like the raw kind of card symbol of, that emotional power. It also, is the card of like intuition and love, and I feel like all of that is super connected. So I feel like when you are in touch with your emotions and in touch with other people's emotions, it not only like enables you to be compassionate and understand other people, but also helps you with your intuition and listening to the universe. So so like I said, I feel like this is kind of an empath card, and it's all about trusting your inner voice. It's, your psychic awareness and getting to that like deeper emotional level, and like it's true, like I think the thing that I like about this card is that it's non-sexual, like it's not king or queen of cups or anything like that. It's just like a raw power. Because I was kind of looking at like the queen of cups or the high priestess, and as much as I do feel like I can relate to those cards and those energies, as far as the strength goes, I see like just this is kind of like a skill or a power rather than like a persona or an archetype. So, la la la, let's see. I feel like that's kind of the biggest things with those two cards. So let's go to the next question. Describe how these cards play out in your everyday life. Are these strengths being fully utilized in your mundane life? Okay, so let's go back to Temperance. I really liked in Arwen's video how she kept calling it her muggle job. I thought that was so cute. So I feel like, well, first of all, I've never really talked about my muggle job on my Instagram or on my Facebook or my YouTube. Um, I just like keep those parts of my life separate just because like this is my passion and this is who I feel like I really am. And as much as I like the work that I do and feel passionately about it, it's like it's so different from tarot that people are usually surprised, like, what? Um, so I actually work in fashion and I am like a manager at a department store for retail. So my job is crazy, okay? Let's just say that. Whenever you work in retail, you work at the mall, like you deal with all sorts of crazy stuff. Your job is like go, 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 go all the time. And I'm sure tons of people are like, how are you empathic and like work in public? So, um, my answer is, spending a lot of time alone when I'm off, decompressing with my tarot. um, I feel like I ended up in my job kind of like randomly. Like I would have never expected that this would be my job. But I feel like it's given me so many like skills that I would have never had if I had just let myself spend my whole life as a quiet introvert. It forced me to open up to people and be comfortable with strangers and just learn so much. And so I love where I am. And right now I'm managing and learning how to manage all different types of personalities of all different ages is also a skill that I never thought I would have. And it really kind of accelerated my understanding of being an empath because when you're in just like this like high energy environment, um, everything is heightened. So it was really tough for me. And when I was first like kind of figuring out my whole empath like thing and not really knowing what's going on, it was very overwhelming. I was exhausted all the time. It was just too much. And then I kind of learned like how to take care of myself and still be able to do my job. So I feel like just because you're an empath doesn't mean you can't, work out in public and do what anyone else would do and be successful. So temperance definitely has come into play in my life when I was figuring out how to work work with the public directly and work with lots of other people and still like maintain my own balance. Um, Also, as a manager and working with like all different types of people, I'm always, kind of, you always have to be like, balancing your time and, balancing different personalities and, people come to their managers because they are upset about things and stuff. So you always have to kind of see everything from a business perspective, but also be empathetic and, balance that kind of like nice, like you have to be understanding. Like everyone's human, everyone has problems. And just kind of knowing where that line is and like, keeping that communication open, having a team that wants to work with you and like respects you, like those are all super important. And I think those all go into temperance. So I feel like it's like a constant balancing act, and it can kind of go crazy very easily. Like you can get overworked or just have one stressful day and just kind of feel like everything that you worked really hard for has kind of gone to pieces. But if you trust that you are like, and also seeing each side of any scenario. Any choice that you make is going to have consequences. So really being like a forward thinker and knowing like, hey, if I make this choice and do this, how is this going to affect me tomorrow, next week, next year? Is this good for my job, whatever. So temperance, definitely. I feel like I've learned so much about this card just in my job and how I have kind of taken that strength and brought it into my career has been really good. And then as far as the Ace of Cups in my job or in everyday life, like, so basically I have a whole series about being an empath. I called it Enlightened Empaths. And I'm just making a lot of videos about, you know, my experiences and all that jazz. And it's a part of me that doesn't go away. I can kind of, you know, forget it about it a little bit when things are good. And I'm happy and centered and grounded and all that good stuff, but it's always there. And, it's just how I see the world. Like, I don't think that, like, I could be one or the other. So I feel like, I'm emotional intelligence is something that I always will, like, kind of understand. It's a language that I always will speak. It's something that I was born speaking. So I use it every day, whether or not I want to. I just, you know, kind of read when people are, like, if I feel like someone's off, you know, and kind of weird and I don't trust them, it's usually because of something that I feel. Or if I feel like someone's mad at me or short or whatever, you know, I just pick up on it. I pick on people's walls if they don't want to let me in. So it's really like the way I emotionally read people is my gauge for everything. It's the gauge on how I actually respond to you. So if I meet you or approach you or I'm talking to you and I feel like that wall is up, the way I respond and react to you is way different than if I feel like you are, like, emotionally engaging and inviting and, you know, open. So it's just the way I see the world. So this one too, definitely a part of my life. Okay, so share one tarot spread you love for shadow healing work. So this is kind of like a long description, but it's my favorite spread, and I'm going to try to keep it brief and then do an extended video of how to do it separately so that you guys can do it. This is actually a spread that I channeled. I do, as a huge part of my tarot readings, I do like a meditation and visualization. And often if I'm doing a reading for a client or a friend or someone else, I will literally ask their spirit guides what spread I should do. So I don't look up spreads online. Like, yes, I'll try some if I see it on Instagram. But I usually channel it directly from spirit, and I'm always like, oh, that's nice, I never thought of that. Okay, let me try it. So it's kind of it's a cool way to read tarot, to kind of like have that given to you. And I usually write them down after because I'm like, this is really neat, I need to use this again. And the one spread that I channeled a while back and love and use all the time now is my chakra spread, and I actually offer it on my Etsy page if that's something that you'd be interested in. So I've had a lot of people ask me, like, they're just like, I feel stuck, I feel like blocked, and or just have that stuck feeling and I don't know what to do and I don't know what's going wrong. I'm like, okay, we need to figure out what chakra is kind of, you know, blocked or stuck, where your energy's blocked. Because I do kind of, as much as I love tarot for a myriad of reasons, my readings, because I'm an empath, are very focused on energy, the present energetic situation that you are in. Not so much about the future, not so much about the past, but what is the energetic climate that you are in at this very present moment, and what is that doing to affect your future and the future of others around you, everything like that. Energy, that's my thing. So I love like learning about the chakras. Let me show you the chakra book that I've been just, you know, casually perusing. Oh, look at that baby. This thing weighs a ton. I love it. I love this book, The Complete Book of Chakras. So, this, I wrote my chakra scan. Feel free to screenshot if you guys want to read my messy handwriting. So basically what you do, meditate, ground yourself, concentrate on each chakra, and see if you get any information that way. Set the intention that you are going to diagnose each chakra. The top, you have like 2 rows of cards. So the top is the diagnosis of the current state of each chakra. The bottom is an advice or prescription of, you know, to kind of help you decide if there's a blockage, how to get over it, what it's coming from, blah, 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 blah. So you shuffle, and then instead of like just putting out 7 cards for each chakra, for each chakra, split the deck into 7 piles. So like literally take the deck and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you'll notice like, okay, one of the stacks is going to be like half the deck, and then the last stack might be like just a few cards. That is okay. Don't panic. Then take the cards, scan your hand over them, and then rearrange them. So if you're like reading left to right, you'd start with the root first. So you'll see like the piles, and then top and bottom. So left to right would be root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, blah, blah. Okay, so you rearrange the piles to what you feel intuitively is correct. So put them in a row, and then flip the top card of each pile, and that is your diagnosis. So that's the current state of each chakra. Then you take the bottom card, not the second card, the bottom card of each pile, pull that out, flip it over, and that is the advice or prescription for each chakra. So it's unbelievable how it always works out. It's amazing. The top card will always, okay, so if it's reversed, that means that the chakra is either like stuck or blocked or something like that. And then the bottom card will usually tell you why, or will tell you, you know, something that, you know, you need to do to kind of help it to get back on track. And you'll always, like, you'll notice patterns. So a lot of times if you have a blockage in, let's say, your throat chakra, so the energy is stagnant there, your chakras above or below, so your third eye or your heart, will overcompensate because they're filtering extra energy from the blocked chakra. So some of this reading requires an understanding of how chakras work, but it's awesome to practice because you get so much like symbolism. Like you'll notice like the colors for the chakras will come through. You'll see patterns with like maybe you have blockages in your lower chakras but your upper chakras are fine, or vice versa. So it's a really long in-depth reading, and I also feel like once you do that, when you see your blockages, like let's say you have a blockage in your solar plexus, right? Then you can do subsequent readings to work on that chakra, and then you will, when you do the next chakra scan, you know, if everything looks aligned, you're golden. So I love it because it's kind of like literally a checkup, going to the doctors for your like alignment. And I think it's amazing, and I love it, and I love doing it for people. And you can just like, you know, and then the prescriptions, that's a whole other thing. Like you can take advice for what needs to be done to make things better. You can do a whole other separate reading and clarify whatever the advice is. You can go on and on. So I love that reading. I love doing it. I am excited to film myself doing it for you guys so you can see it. And when I do that, I will link it. So that is my favorite healing work spread. And lastly, if you were to scan over your personal tarot, spiritual, witchy practice in the last 6 months, what would you say was the most common theme? So I have to admit that I have been very like on and off with my tarot reading. The last 6 months have been kind of like stressful and weird, and I feel like I've kind of like been just not always as centered as I would like to be, let's say. And it's been kind of transient. Like I went on vacation and I've moved and I just am like, what am I doing with my life? All that good stuff. So because of that, even though I haven't read for myself as much as I would like to, a common theme that's been coming up and coming up especially recently has been the swords. And that's actually something that Arwen said was coming up for her too, which I kind of thought was funny. So the swords have been coming up for me all the freaking time. And I've been like, part of me thinks it's like just the natural climate right now. I don't know if it's just for Libras. I know I've watched a lot of like, monthly tarot videos for Libras. Swords have kind of been like a thing. But just for me personally, I have gotten so many swords and I have kind of been thrown off by them at first because I'm not really a swords person. Like I said, I'm an empath. Cups are what comes naturally to me. Cups, 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 cups all day. The sad cups, the happy cups, I get the cups. So when swords are coming through, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But I really think it's like, it was kind of like something that I needed in my life. Cards that kind of perplex me tend to come up so that I can learn about them. Which I'm sure is true for other people. Like you just kind of, when it comes up a lot, you start applying it to your life and like, okay, now I get it. But first of all, swords represent the element air, and I am a Libra, so I'm an air sign. And I really think I started connecting with the understanding of what air signs embody. And, kind of like that mental clarity, intelligence, and communication, like clear communication. And I feel like those are all like things that maybe I hadn't tapped into in the past, and now I'm starting to. So I feel like I personally have grown and changed a lot in like the last 6 months to a year. I am a lot more like, I think it's because of my work, like my job changed and it kind of has brought out this new side of me that's like a little bit more assertive and speaks my mind, and I can communicate more clearly, and I feel confident in my work, so I'm able to express myself. And I just feel like the swords have kind of like challenged me because obviously there's like tons of like not so great sword cards, where like you're anxious, like anxiety is part of it, and worry, and like being stuck in your head. But I also think that there's like a lot of good lessons to be learned and like strengths in that. So I'm like trying to embrace the sword cards, and I think that I'm accepting that that's a part of me. That I'm not just a cups person, I'm also a swords person. And sometimes I'm a little too logical, and not really logical, I just tend to like give it to you straight. And I just say what's on my mind. And I won't necessarily realize if it's like a little harsh, but I'll just say it anyways. So yeah, so I'm definitely more of a swords person than I ever thought I was. So yeah, so that was the Tarot Reflections tag. It was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, and definitely do it yourselves. Even if you don't read tarot, you can still like choose a card, talk about your strengths, just go for it. And I will see you in my next video.